Okay, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to your Chapter 10 video review section on, of course, you might have guessed it right now, the Bill of Rights. All right, we don't have a ton of time, so we're just going to hop right to it. First things first, basically talking about the origins of the Bill of Rights and where they came from. You think back to the Constitutional Convention, and when the Constitutional Convention ended, the Constitution was written, it was time for it to be ratified by 9 of the 13 original states. But some of the states and some of the delegations were afraid. They didn't want to ratify the Constitution just yet. They were very worried, and that's our very first question. What were folks still worried about? Well, they were worried that this Constitution, it talked about the government can do this, the government can do this, the government can do this. It went through all these powers that the government had, but nowhere in there did it say what powers the people had. They said, well, what about our rights? And so people were afraid. They didn't want to ratify the Constitution because it did not contain a Bill of Rights. There was no evidence of the rights that the people had, rights that we have today that eventually were added. And so that was, kind of a big thing that people were still worried about. The second question, James Madison, who is he? Why is he important? Well, he was one of the driving forces, the main writers, main authors of the Bill of Rights. He didn't necessarily write each individual amendment, but he's the one who selected the original 10 that were ratified. And, wrote the Constitution and Washington as messenger, president, things like that. Kind of a big deal. Fourth president of the United States. Purpose of the Bill of Rights. We've talked about this. Why do we have it? Well, we think of the Bill of Rights, remember the metaphor we've been using is that the Bill of Rights is like a shield. It protects us, right? Yeah, huzzah, right? The Bill of Rights, it protects us from government abuse and kind of the little hand motions that we've been using, right? We've said, well, there's 10 amendments. If you've got your hands up, you can protect yourself, right? So, protected from government abuse. Protected from government abuse. That's why we have the Bill of Rights, to protect us from power. Question number 4 deals with the First Amendment, one of the 5 freedoms of the First Amendment, dealing with religion and government. In class, we talked about Thomas Jefferson's view on religion and government. Remember, Jefferson said in a letter to a friend that there should be a wall of separation between church and state. A wall of separation between religion and government. He said religion and government should not mix. You shouldn't make laws about religion. It just should not get involved. And again, that was just Jefferson's view. Different people have different views. However, the fact remains that in this nation, we are not able to make laws about religion. You can be any religion you want. No religion, it does not matter. We have no official religion. Pretty cool thing. Pretty great freedom that we have. And then that brings us to number 5, the First Amendment and the 5 freedoms. List them. Well, we know this by now. We've been doing our hand game, which, by the way, if you want to go over the Bill of Rights hand game, why don't you go ahead and click this link, and you can watch the YouTube video on the Bill of Rights hand game. Oh, one more time. There you go. So the Bill of Rights hand game. So what is it? First Amendment, 5 freedoms. First Amendment, 5 freedoms. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, freedom to assemble, and freedom to protest. Good. We'll get back to those later. Number 6, if you feel like your rights have been violated by the government, by a police officer, by a school, by a business, whatever the case is, if you feel like your rights have been violated, the judicial branch of government, the judicial system, the court system, the Supreme Court system will help settle that. Number 7, the Second, Third, and Fourth Amendments. When you think about the time that the Second, Third, and Fourth Amendments were passed, you kind of start to understand why they were passed. The Second Amendment, of course, bang, bang, the gun amendment. The Third Amendment, we don't worry about it as much today, but says that, you do not have to house, you do not have to quarter soldiers. And then the Fourth Amendment, remember 4, knock on the door, it's the police. No unlawful searches and seizures. All of those amendments, they go back to, what is the cause of that? Well, remember, these people who wrote it, they remembered living under tyranny, living under Great Britain, who they viewed as a tyrant. And so they said, you know what? We're going to put a stop to all of these having to quarter soldiers and not letting us have militias and weapons and not, coming into our homes and searching our stuff. So the Second, Third, and Fourth Amendments because of Britain. Number 8, we are very fortunate in this country. We have a free press, TV, newspaper, blogs, all these great tools that we have available to us. And we've talked about how they're important for a democratic society, for a free and open society. And why is that? Well, we just had an election. And anytime you have an election, you want to get information about the candidates. So this is just one example of where a free press is important because as a public, we cannot make informed decisions. We can't get involved unless we know all the facts, unless we know all the information. And if our press is not free, if the government controls very little of what we can see or hear, we won't be able to make the proper decision. So, Good. Moving on. Number 9, First Amendment, 5 freedoms. First Amendment, 5 freedoms. Speech, religion, press, assemble, protest. Number 10, the 9th and 10th Amendments don't apply directly to you and I, but they're still important. And that is because the 9th and 10th Amendments are put in place to keep balance, between the national federal government, the state government, and you and I, to kind of make sure that all of our rights are balanced and nobody's feelings get hurt, basically. The 11th Amendment, or question number 11, the freedom of the press is a wonderful thing. It's a great thing. We just talked about why it's important. But with great freedom comes great responsibility. And as we know, there is one thing that the press must always do. Whenever you are reporting, whether on TV, on the radio, on the newspaper, you have an obligation. It is your responsibility to tell the truth, right? When you are reporting, you must tell the truth. You can't just say whatever you want. That's not reporting. That's not the freedom of the press. You can't lie. You can't make stuff up. You have a responsibility and obligation to tell the truth. Number 12, Second Amendment. Bang, the gun amendment, right? What is that freedom? Does that guarantee? The right to own arms. There's another First Amendment, 5 freedoms, and the First Amendment, 5 freedoms. Speech, religion, press, assembly, and protest. Know those 5 freedoms, ladies and gentlemen. You must know them inside and out. You must have them understood. Number 13, the Fifth Amendment deals with making sure that, I'm reading it here, sorry, that your rights are protected. Yes, so the Fifth Amendment, remember, if you ever have to deal with the courts, you have what is known as a due process of law. What does the due process of law mean? Basically, that means that the government must follow the rules. You must, you must have a fair trial, and you can't be shady and it can't be secretive. But basically, the Fifth Amendment just states that the government must follow the rules when dealing with you in the court system. And then the Ninth Amendment. Again, what is that all about specifically? The Ninth Amendment, we didn't cover it a lot in class. We don't have any goofy hand motions. But remember, the Ninth Amendment just simply means we've listed rights here, but we have more than just these rights. It's not like these are the only rights that we have. Just because we said this is our Bill of Rights, these are the only rights we have. So the founders, they were smart. They said, times are going to change and people are going to need new rights and there are going to be different rights. So there are more than those that are just listed here. And we have the power to declare those as they come around. So that's it. We got it. And you're going to do great. Real quick, we'll just run through the hand game again. First Amendment, 5 freedoms. You have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, freedom to assemble, freedom to protest. Second Amendment, bang, the gun amendment, right to bear arms. Skip third, Fourth Amendment. Knock on the door, it's the police. No unlawful searches and seizures. Fifth Amendment, right to remain silent, due process of law. Sixth Amendment, 5 + 1 is 6. Point at your wristwatch, right to a speedy trial, right to a fair trial by your peers, etc. Not concerned about the 7th as much, deals with civil cases. And then we have the 8th Amendment, double nooses, no cruel and unusual punishment. And then, of course, the 10th Amendment, which is the last chair in the restaurant amendment. And that's all we got. Good luck on your assessment. You're going to do fantastic. See ya.